Hello, my name is Jim Riffel. About a year ago, I wanted to make a movie about fame. I thought the best way to do this would be to interview famous people. People like Richard Nixon, Katharine Hepburn, Mick Jagger. I sent out letters and made phone calls to about 150 different celebrities. It didn't take me long to realize that these people have an army of publicists, managers, agents, and lawyers, and that to contact even one of these people would be virtually impossible. I was about to abandon the project when I was discussing my attempt to reach a famous actress with a friend of mine. He told me not to bother, that his friend had met this actress on several occasions, and that she was a very, very difficult person to deal with. But as my friend told me this story, an idea came to me. That maybe I shouldn't interview famous people. Maybe a more honest and a more interesting approach would be to interview people who had met famous people. I immediately assembled a research group, a team of experts who would help me track down people who had met famous people. This group consisted of Eugene Sautner, Mark Miller, and Michelle Capazzi. Over the next year, we dug up leads and compiled a list of interviews ranging from a woman who collects celebrity hair to a man who worked with Albert Einstein. And as with any project, when you open up one door, 5 new ones appear. Needless to say, we ended up covering areas of fame that we hadn't even thought of at the beginning of our long journey. The results of all of this extraordinary research follows. Of the 150 letters sent out, a few celebrities were kind enough to take time out to write back. Gene Kelly thanked us for our letter, regretfully turned us down, but wished us good luck with our project. Former President Richard Nixon's assistant let us know that he appreciated the offer, but that his calendar was full. He also expressed his best wishes for a happy new year. And screen legend Katharine Hepburn's response to our questions about fame was simply, "I'm no good at all at answering that sort of question." Inspired by these kind responses, we decided to send out a second batch to famous people we thought might have a little more free time and would possibly be more willing to meet with us. And a few weeks into the project, a new member joined the team, Tracy DeAngelis. Her assignment was to find people with autograph stories. A week later, she had dozens of stories, and although many of them were interesting and insightful, there was one story and one person who stood out from the rest.
There are a number of reasons why people collect autographs. Social scientists have identified maybe 3 main reasons. One reason is there are those who seek to identify with a celebrity, and collecting the autograph is a way of verifying this. There are others who are bothered, perhaps by their own anonymity, who crave the prestige that celebrities possess, and an autograph is a way of certifying that relationship. And finally, there's a third reason, is there are people who are interested in autograph collecting for purely commercial reasons. They are looking for a good investment. They neither care about the celebrity, they don't have any desire to identify with him or her.
This is my surfboard. It's one of the original Hawaiians, original Hawaiian surfboards. It's made of wood, actually, and it was given to me for being the biggest drunkard out of all the lifeguards in the state of New Jersey. I'm trying to collect, signatures of famous people because I want it ultimately. I figure if there's enough famous people on it, they'll probably put it in a museum of modern art one day.
And who's the most famous person that signed your surfboard?
Well, most famous and probably my biggest hero is Arnold Schwarzenegger. One day I was sitting in my house and my friend Thor is like a bouncer at Planet Hollywood, and so Arnold Schwarzenegger owns Planet Hollywood, and he ended up giving me a call and he says, "Wayno, why don't you come down here? Arnold's going to be here for the day. Why don't you come down and get his signature?" I was like, yes! So I ended up going down there, but I didn't have a car, and you can see the surfboard's like 13 feet long. I ended up having to put it on my back and carry it, through the subway system to get there. And so I figured if I'm going to do that, I got to make a whole overall Arnold theme to this. So I put a leather jacket on, a pair of sunglasses, I had short hair and jeans, and I was making believe I was the Terminator for a while. So the train ended up getting off at 33rd Street, And Planet Hollywood is on like 57th Street. So I had to run 20 blocks through Manhattan with like this Terminator costume on with like the surfboard on my back, just scaring the hell out of all like the regular pedestrians on the street. So I ended up getting there. The place was empty out in front. It was like a, overcast day. I'm sitting out front, right? Wait a few minutes, and Arnold comes out because Thor goes and gets him. I'm about 1 foot from Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm looking in his eyes, and I'm saying, man, this guy really has like the Terminator eyes. They're like total black, like dead-looking eyes, right? And then all of a sudden, I was like, well, I was figuring, he wasn't going to care at all. And Thor goes, look, this is my friend Wayne O'Drano. He's an artist. This is going to be in the Museum of Modern Art. He goes, it's his magical surfboard. Would you like to sign it? And all of a sudden, when like Arnold heard like the word magical, like he's like, into that whole like Conan, like European mysticism crap, right? When he heard the word magical, he got all happy for like a minute and was like, okay, I'll sign it, right? His whole attitude changed. He came, he went to sign it. Now, he was about 3 feet out of the door of the place. When the streets are empty, it was like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. It was like, pew! There's like thousands of people. All the drones just flocked around him like maggots to rancid meat. It was totally insane. And that's when I had to just wave, Arnold signed it, and I had to like wave goodbye because there was just too many drones trying to collect regular autographs. They didn't realize he was signing the Wayne O'Drano's board.
For some people, seeking autographs from celebrities isn't sufficient. They desire a closer emotional bond. They attain this bond sometimes by acquiring an article of clothing or some other possession of the celebrity. There is historical precedent for this type of behavior. There is a religious theory that holds that closeness to God was measured by the possession of a relic of a saint. It could be a lock of hair or an article of clothing. Churches tried to capitalize on this assumption by acquiring a lot of saints' relics, the assumption being the more relics they had, the more worshipers they would have, and the worshipers in turn would feel closer to God.
And how did you get involved in collecting celebrity hair?
Well, I worked as an assistant to a man who was in the hair business, so I got to work on them with him.
Hey, can you tell us your name, please?
My name is Tim Puttrey.
And you collect celebrity autographs?
Yes, sir. I have a little over 600 autographs of different celebrities.
You have a scrapbook?
Yeah, over the years I've collected hair from them. Either I had to pull it out or cut a piece off or something. It depends on who it was. So I kind of started saving it.
Okay, can you show us some of the pieces of hair that you have?
Sure. Who would you like to see? Just anyone?
Is there any other type of memorabilia that you collect?
Yeah, when I'm fortunate enough to meet a celebrity, I like to get something from them. I'm holding right now in my hand a cigar owned once by Red Auerbach and smoked by Red Auerbach, general manager of the Boston Celtics. I met him in Boston at this bar called Champion Sports Bar, and I was fortunate enough to get a picture with him. And in this picture, you'll see a cigar, and this is the cigar he was smoking, which I want to own now. And what it is after I got a picture with him, I asked him, can I have a cigar? And he went in his pocket to get one. I said, no, the one you're smoking. He says, oh, sure. So he gave it to me, and on the other side, I got a picture of me and his statue, which is in Quincy Market in Boston. So he's like a legend up there.
Let's see. First I have my natural mother, Ivana Trump. She denies me, but that's a nice golden, rich-looking blonde hair. I took that from the comb that I combed her hair because she wasn't giving nothing up. Okay, next I have Christy Brinkley. Very nice, blonde, smooth-looking. That's her. But I'll tell you a story about her later. Next is Deborah Harry. Well, we all know how we grew up to her music, the famous Blondie. And let's see, this is Imogen Stepple. Her movie never made it, so she's no one. Susan Sarandon, 3 kids, still not married, but very talented, nice red hair. Let's see, Rachel Hunter, typical model, marries rock star, Rod Stewart. I don't really like him. Kim Basinger, the girl with it all, looks, success, Alec Baldwin. I really like Alec Baldwin, but anyway, Daryl Hannah, she was such a bitch that I ripped a big clump of her hair out, so she'll never forget me. Huh. Let's see, this is Al Pacino. I really don't like short men, but I figured let me take his hair anyway because he's kind of a legend. But I didn't want to take too much because he's kind of thinning on top. I didn't want him to get mad, so there's Al's hair. Let's see, who else do I have here? Here's Alec Baldwin's hair. I have a big clump of his hair. See? It's not from his chest, it's from his head. So he could probably spare a lot from his chest. So hairy. Oh, I don't want to put it in Al Pacino's collection.
Can we see the cigar?
Sure. A little lucky. About 4 years old now. That's it.
Do all of these people know that you have their hair?
Well, some of them do, and some of them don't. You know, and then a few of them I used to tell them that I have it. Well, or my boss used to say that I had a hair book, and they would ask me, "Am I in your hair book?" So a lot of them were cool about it. A lot of them used to give me hair, like, "Take my hair."
So they wanted to be in the book.
Some of them, yeah. Some of them I just didn't tell.
I'm also fortunate enough to own a reed signed by Kenny G from his saxophone. And he's a really nice guy.
That's autographed too, isn't it?
Yeah, he signed that for me.
Do you have any other things in your collection besides hair?
Oh, I have, let's see. I have envelopes with their names that they used to tip me, or I have for Melanie Griffith, a cigarette butt. After she asked for an ashtray, I took it out. Cigarette, we have that.
We all agreed it would be helpful to better understand fame by talking to someone who was actively working on making himself famous. A few days later, we came across an ad in a newspaper placed by Walter Gollander, a local talent scout who had devoted the better part of his life to working in the entertainment industry. Influenced by Chuck Berry, Fats Domino, and Elvis Presley, Gollander started out with dreams of becoming a rock and roll star, but soon realized he didn't have the voice and switched over to talent scouting, finding and managing artists. He's probably best known in his hometown of Irvington, New Jersey, for his fluorescent orange business cards, and he's currently trying to discover the next big singing sensation. We set up a meeting with Gollander to gain some insight on the pursuit of fame. Walt, can you tell us exactly what you do?
I'm a talent scout, music promoter, manager, publisher, consultant, deal maker, sort of like a musical midwife. I deliver the talent, I bring it into the world.
How long have you been doing this for?
This is my 30th year. I started in 1963, so wish me congratulations and happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
And why did you start in this business?
I love it. I always wanted to be a singer, songwriter, promoter. I needed the audience. I had to get out there and be famous. I had to be somebody. And the way to do it's out there in front of that audience. But I wasn't a singer, so I lived through my artists. I'm a talent scout.
Why do you want to become famous?
Because as a young kid growing up, I was nothing. And I wanted to be recognized and admired for the little talent that I had. And I loved the applause, and I liked the recognition. I loved being in the spotlight. And I would do anything for that. Gave up teaching to be here today, believe it or not.
With Eugene and Michelle following up on some solid leads, we continued on our journey. We came across many individuals who had amassed enormous collections of information and memorabilia on a specific celebrity they admired. There were two people in particular, though, who went beyond this stage. Two people who had become so intrigued and so interested in the individuals they admired that they were not just fans. They were celebrity experts.
My name is Ona Hill. I've been a movie buff fan for over 45 to 50 years, and for the last 20 years, I've been a great big fan of Raymond Burr.
In 1974, I heard this song Strutter by a band named Kiss. I really liked the album, so went out and bought it. Little did I realize back then what a profound effect it would have on the rest of my life. The first time I saw Kiss live was at Roosevelt Stadium in Jersey City, New Jersey in the summer of 1976. I was blown away by the pyrotechnics, the sound, and the excitement of the show. Since then, I've seen over 200 shows throughout the country.
Before there was television, there was radio. And on audio cassettes, I recorded shows that Raymond Burr was on, like Pat Novak for Hire, Dragnet, Suspense, and CBS Workshop. And when I get tired of watching television, I'll rerun some of these old cassettes.
How many cassettes do you think you have in that collection?
I have, well, I must have at least 300 cassettes of various times.
In 1977, KISS won the People's Choice Award. Shortly thereafter came the merchandise blitz. Everything from lunchboxes to dolls to comic books to games to puzzles. No other band since the Beatles has merchandised so heavily. I began collecting KISS memorabilia, and before long I've amassed a collection of over 2,000 different pieces.
When the VCRs came in, I was able to compile a collection of videos of the Perry Mason series that Raymond Burr was in, and Ironside, and his guest appearances on the Don Knotts Show, Flip Wilson Show, The Match Game, and one of my favorite episodes was from Love Boat, where he sang Gilbert and Sullivan songs with Gavin MacLeod.
In 1985, I took my passion for KISS and my collection and opened up my business, Rainbow Rockatorium. Each year, I feature my KISS museum, over 2,000 pieces of memorabilia at rock conventions throughout the country.
This is my Raymond Burr collection of scrapbooks and photo albums, and they start with 1941, when he was a stage actor at the Pasadena Playhouse. And they are filled with newspaper and magazine articles and clippings from all over the world, and some foreign ones. I bought dictionaries and translated them word for word, and then typed them and put them in the scrapbooks.
How many scrapbooks and photo albums do you have?
I have 36 scrapbooks and 30 albums of photographs. At least over 500 photographs. This is one of the paintings that I bought at one of Raymond Burr's auctions at the McGeorge School of Law. He auctioned off a lot of his paintings. This is the manuscript, the original manuscript from the Perry Mason and Ironside series. And this is I'm a charter member of the National Association for the Advancement of Perry Mason. And Jim Davidson, the president, made me the residential Raymond Burr expert.
My favorite piece of KISS memorabilia are the actual autographs I have tattooed into my arms. This is Ace Frehley, signed in 1988 at the Trocadero in Philly. Ace was a riot. This is Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons, both signed 1989 in Asbury Park. Paul was kind of quiet, but Gene was the most interesting man I ever met. And last but least is Peter Criss, signed at the KISS convention in 1990.
For the last 20 years, I have been writing Raymond Burr's biography, and he found out about it, And he called me on the telephone October 12th, 1992. And we had a wonderful conversation for 10 minutes, and he approved of the book. And that was a climax of all the years I've been collecting about him. And someday I have hopes of meeting him, and that'll be the ultimate climax of meeting of the collection.
Do you think if you do meet Raymond Burr that he will live up to all of your expectations?
Yes, he'll live up to all my expectations. He's a wonderful, gentle man and a very kind human being, and that will be the highlight.
Different people express their admiration for celebrities in different ways. Some seek the autograph of a celebrity, others have to be in their presence. The latter are trying, in some cases, to create a new sense of self by joining a celebrity reference group.
About how many funerals do you think you've been to?
Well, I've been to all of the good ones since the late 70s, from Chairman Mao's in 1976 until Lillian Gish's, so probably somewhere between 150 and 200 of the big celebrity funerals.
What have you done to meet celebrities?
Well, one time I wanted to go out to Los Angeles and stay in Beverly Hills, so I ended up having to sell my car to finance the whole endeavor.
Did you meet anybody when you were out there?
When I was out there, I ran into Carol Channing, George Burns, and when I was in Spago, I was seated by Diane Lane and Rick Springfield.
Did you go to Malcolm Forbes' funeral?
Yes, it was an excellent funeral. It was very interesting at St. Bartholomew's Church. Huge crowd, big security. I got in by recognizing an elderly woman who I knew was invited and sort of attaching myself to her as if they thought I was her escort. And she seemed to I seemed to think I was her escort also. So we got in, we went to the VIP section. Liz Taylor was there, Richard Nixon. It was a phenomenal crowd, absolutely unbelievable, because a lot of the people who were big in the 80s were all there. I also knew they were having great food at the Forbes building afterwards. And I decided I better get there very early because Liz Taylor looked hungry. And I said, get there early. If Liz is hungry, there's not going to be much left if I get there later. And it was just wonderful. I went to the party afterwards. Great salmon, great raspberries.
And have you been out there since then?
Yes, not too long after that, I was reading the paper that Sean Penn was in a play called Hurly Burly. And I had to get tickets for this, so I ordered them ahead of time, and I ended up getting front row seats.
What happened during the play?
During the play, he was in one scene that was extremely emotional, and he spit, and being in the front row, it landed right on me.
The spit landed right on you?
Yes.
And how did you feel about that?
I thought it was great.
Hi, I'm Walt Gollander, and welcome to Walt Gollander Land. And this is where it all happens on Sunday from 11 o'clock to 3 each and every Sunday. This is where we have our now famous auditions, and we're in our 29th and a half years. This is where it all starts on a Sunday.
How does the process begin? How do you find talent?
I've been running an ad in the paper now for about 29 and a half years. People see the ad. Hopefully they will write into me. They hear my machine message. They follow the instructions. They write into me. I send them out an instructional package. They're invited to come here on a Sunday from 11 to 3. Open house. If they come, they come. If they don't, let them remain in obscurity.
And what happens when they do come here?
The people who come in with a cassette make it easy for me to listen to. Those people who only are singers can either sing a cappella on the microphone I have here with the tape recorder, or they can sing with a track if they have one. And we listen to them on the mic, and we play their track. And we then decide, and I'm always rating them in my mind from 1 to 10. I can tell from what they say and how they perform where they are, where their musical head is at.
And if they're good, if you like the singing, what next? What happens then?
Oh, there's so many different avenues, so many different programs, so many different ways we can go. I'm like the hub of the musical wheel. I can go in all different directions. I know exactly what I can do with them and what can be done with them. In most cases, things don't go as we planned. But if they've got what it takes, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit.
While leafing through magazines and newspapers and watching television programs, we came across a piece on the late great inventor Thomas Alva Edison. We learned Edison had a granddaughter who was alive and well, and we thought it might be very interesting if she would consent to do an interview and tell us some humorous anecdotes about her granddad. We attempted to contact her, sending her a letter through the Thomas Edison Museum in West Orange, New Jersey. Unfortunately, she was busy and unable to answer us. The research group still liked this idea of interviewing a relative of a famous public figure, and so we pressed on, digging and digging, until finally we hit pay dirt.
All right, my name is Lou Amsterdam. I'm a fourth cousin of Maury Amsterdam, the comedian who played on the Dick Van Dyke Show. And my dad, Meyer, who drove a cab down in Florida, used to call himself professionally as Maury Amsterdam. It became a conversation piece in driving the cab when customers would come in, and most people knew him as Maury Amsterdam.
So he used Maury's, his name was Meyer and he used Maury's name?
Yeah, it was close enough, and virtually everybody knew him as Maury down in Florida when he was driving, and just generally when they met him. It was an interesting conversation piece.
Well, can you tell us what was your biggest thrill?
Wow, that's great. 1967, I had discovered and managed a group from Columbia High School called the Blades of Grass. 4 men with a light pop rock sound. I found a song for them called Happy, got them to record it, got them a contract with Jubilee Records, signed them with the William Morris Agency, and took them down to Washington to do a show for WPGC Radio. We drove into town. Our song is on the radio. We're getting set to go to Constitution Hall to open up for Neil Diamond and the Dave Clark 5. Is that a thrill to hear your own song on the radio? A song that you found which went to number 3. And you know what happened the next night? We were at Alexandria, Virginia roller rink opening up for the Doors. What a year. 67.
What was one of your biggest disappointments?
Oh, one of the biggest disappointments. There's too many. We'd be here all day. We'd need about 50 hours just to tell the semi-disappointments.
Can you tell us a couple of the factors that have kept you from becoming as successful as you want to be?
Sure can. Trusting the wrong people, believing in the wrong people, not getting things in writing, taking people at their word, not getting people to commit to a contract. Now when somebody says something, I don't believe them. I say if you're going to say it, you're going to sign it. You know what? I don't carry just 1 or 2. Count them, 3 pens. Everything I do goes in writing. I'm like a walking contraceptive. I practice safe contracts. I trust no one.
What's another factor?
Nepotism. N-E-P-O-tism. Being born to the right people. It's who you are born to. You know the story about Debbie Boone? You don't know the story about Debbie Boone. No. Does anybody know the story about Debbie Boone? Joe Brooks writes a song, You Light Up My Life. Does he call the casting agencies? Does he go out and see the agents? No. Picks up his sugar, calls Pat Boone and says, hello, Pat. Joe Brooks here. Debbie home? Mm-hmm. Get her over here. I got a song for her. It's going to be in a movie. 4 o'clock. Beautiful, beautiful thing. No yellow pages, no casting notice, no glossy photos. Who you're born to. And little Debbie skips in. She's got the job. I wouldn't be so lucky. Just pick up your sugar and call the right people. It happens all the time. Nepotism. You can't get a break. You can't get a break.
The next few weeks were rough down at the research group headquarters. A woman who dated Elvis and has pictures of them together said yes to an interview and then backed out, deciding to write a book about her experience instead. A girl who has Kenny Rogers' fork with some lasagna still stuck to it also consented and then also backed out. And a caterer who was in Mike Tyson's mansion and stole a pair of Robin Givens underwear was afraid Tyson would beat him to a pulp if he did the interview. Our spirits were sinking lower and lower, And then, out of the blue, something strange came down the pike.
My name is John Kurlick. I'm a doctor of metaphysics who offers spiritual card readings, especially to those people who are deemed by society as being mentally deficient and psychotic, those people who are mass murderers, serial killers, and assassins.
Who's the most famous criminal you've ever given a tarot card reading to?
That would be Charles Manson.
Can you tell us how you got in contact with Charles Manson?
I received a copy of the Corruption Chronicles, which is a newsletter out of Alaska, and in it he had an ad there soliciting funds for his music, along with his full name and address. So I wrote him a letter offering him a spiritual card reading, provided he would send me a date of birth and one question.
And he sent you? And
he sent me this card, and I'll read it to you. The message reads, "Spirit body of John is big, birth date 11/11/34. How long will 9 red bodies hold a real wheel of steel if the Indian graves are open from the heart?" There's some scribbling there, but he continues on saying, "I was just playing. I'm simple-minded, got brain damage, and have fits. I think it's after the last time I got kicked in the head. Here's a question. After the white cops go on trial for beating a black guy, will they take it out on the little white guys again?" And this is referring to the Rodney King beating.
How did you answer him?
I had performed a reading and let him know that this was a dangerous time in his life, that he should be protective, although I didn't think that they would come down on the little white guys. However, something would flare up of this.
What overall feeling did you get from Charles?
When I received his card, I can understand that he was involved into a lot of detrimental, heavy-duty psychotic occurrences in his life. However, the spirit of the cards told me that he was a very caring and loving individual, one who wanted to take and go on a positive path and get ahead in life. However, influences and circumstances that were around him carried him into his future.
Are there any other serial killers or mass murderers who'd you like to read their tarot cards?
Yes, I'd like to give a reading to Jeffrey Dahmer and even that of Son of Sam, David Berkowitz.
If someone needs to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
They can write me, Dr. John Kurlick, P.O. Box 6186, Baltimore, Maryland, 21231.
The second batch of letters we had sent out gave birth to a few more responses. Golf legend Ben Hogan wrote a very gracious letter, saying it was kind of us to ask him for an interview, but he no longer has the time for new projects, and to please understand that he respectfully declines our kind invitation. William F. Buckley, Jr., of the National Review fame, was nice enough to personally write back and said, "Thanks loads, but that's not the kind of thing I'd like to have a hand in." And the Most Reverend Bishop Tutu's media secretary answered us with a somewhat positive response, but, unfortunately, we didn't have the budget to fly to South Africa. We sent out a third group of letters, this time focusing on famous people whose schedules might be even more open than all the celebrities we had previously approached.
It's been said many times that fame is fleeting, and those who gain it and lose it are often subject to harmful social psychological consequences. Durkheim's concept of anomie is a useful way to characterize some of these social psychological consequences. The concept anomie suggests that those who rapidly gain status or lose status, this sudden change produces an identity crisis, disorientation, and even in extreme cases can lead to suicide.
Oh, I met Peter Tork. I was at a music store, and he was selling his guitar, and one of the people there pointed him out to me. I'm not sure if I noticed, and I asked her. They pointed it out to me that he was Peter Tork. So I went over to him and said, "Aren't you Peter Tork?" And he said, "I used to be." So I said, "Who are you now?" So he laughed, and he said, "That question fills most of my waking hours."
Through all of the interviews that you've conducted, can you tell us the most interesting quote you've received from a celebrity about fame?
One of my favorites, I guess, would have to come from Carl Perkins, the guy who in 1956 wrote and recorded what became his first and only really big hit, an all-time classic, Blue Suede Shoes. And in every show that he's done since 1956, of course, Carl has had to sing that song just like the record. And I asked him, you must get awfully tired of singing Blue Suede Shoes night after night, show after show. And he said, sure I do. But he said, then I think about what my life would have been like if I had not come up with Blue Suede Shoes. And then suddenly Blue Suede Shoes gets to be a really good song to sing again and again and again.
Do you ever regret having devoted your entire life to the pursuit of fame?
I don't regret having devoted my life to the pursuit of fame, but I'm damn mad about the fact that I have not been as successful as I should have been. I put in an awful lot of effort, and I've been this close, pecker length away from a lot of good deals, and it hasn't happened yet. And it's been a real long, hard, tortuous climb to this level of obscurity.
What kind of negative effects has it had on your life?
It's made me very angry. So angry that I fumble when I talk sometimes. In fact, I think I'm up to about 5.5 milligrams of Valium right now, which reminds me, have you got a glass of water? Only kidding. It's made me a sick person, but I'm not alone because most of the people in this blankety-blank business are very, very sick dudes. I fit in beautifully, fit in very beautifully. We're all a bunch of musical maniacs, if you know what I mean.
Although we had spoken with a number of people who were fans or had met a famous person, we hadn't yet contacted someone who worked inside the media and could give us a view from the other side. The research group worked the phones.
The media are gatekeepers. They open the electronic turnstile. They determine who is admitted to the electronic arena. They attempt to control how long people retain their prestige and when they lose it by creating images of celebrities and thereby manipulating public opinion.
Do you think famous people have a responsibility to talk to the press?
Well, they always have the right to say no. People can do whatever they want. No one can be forced to say anything. But I do think that celebrities have maybe a responsibility to come to us and explain what's going on if they're promoting a movie and they want to have us write about it. I also think that if they're on a public street or a sidewalk, they have the responsibility to talk to us if we ask them some questions.
Where do you think the right to privacy ends?
Where does the right to privacy end? I don't think there is a beginning or an end. If you're a celebrity, you're out there and you're fair game, and my job is to go out there and get you in any kind of pose or position or situation that you're in.
I'll give you a couple of examples to show you the difference between two. Woody Allen, again, was filming the movie Alice a few years back downtown here in New York City. I went over there with a photographer from the newspaper. He said, guys, hi, nice to see you. Just don't get in my way while I'm working. But if you want to take pictures and you're in the background and you're not screwing anything up, go right ahead and do it. Fine, which is what we did. A while later, while Spike Lee was filming Jungle Fever up on 138th Street, we went up there. I didn't even get a chance to say hello to him because he saw myself and the photographer, screamed at these two very large assistants he had and said, get them out of here, and had them try and chase us down the block. We went and got a police officer who explained to him that on a public sidewalk, anyone can walk there one way or the other. If he wants privacy, you can go to a movie studio, you can build a set, and you can lock the door and keep whoever you want out. But if you're going to film on a city street, you should let people like us watch it. You don't have to talk to us. You can always say no. So I guess that's the difference between the celebrities we like and the celebrities we don't like. We don't want to get in anyone's way, but on the other hand, you can't kick us off a public sidewalk.
The term celebrity has gotten so out of control. I mean, it used to be movie star, music star. Now it's anyone that gets into trouble or does something stupid that the media just latches onto, because basically we're so starved for any kind of situation where people are exposed that our fascination with that's just gotten out of control. And the media, sure, media creates stars like Amy Fisher. Do you think Amy Fisher should be a star? I don't think so.
What about Sylvester Stallone?
Sylvester Stallone, I love. He's got a great sense of humor. I remember talking to him on a number of occasions, one being when he was promoting, again, Planet Hollywood, a restaurant that he owns with Arnold Schwarzenegger and a bunch of other guys. And I asked him if he was going to go into the meat freezer and punch the hamburger meat like he did in Rocky beforehand. The people surrounding him were a little aghast. He loved it and said, a great idea, a great idea. I think I will personally tenderize every hamburger that I'll sell. And that's what I look for in celebrities. I like people who know that basically a lot of what they're doing is not that important, and they take it lightly, and Sylvester Stallone definitely knows that.
Daryl Hannah's a joke. She's kind of a pain in the ass. She's too full of herself, thinks she's too famous, and I don't know. I don't think her performances speak for the kind of way she acts in public.
Andy Warhol, I remember seeing at a screening of a motion picture. I don't remember the name of the film, but I remember he was sitting behind me with Penny Marshall and Art Garfunkel, and they seemed very nice and chatty and normal. Talking to Andy Warhol, however, was like talking to a wall. I didn't think there was anyone inside there. It seemed like a shell. Spoke very slowly, wasn't that interested in anything, and really didn't have much to say. Certainly didn't live up to his image.
Michelle Pfeiffer is one of the biggest brats in the business. She's such a bitch. She hates us, we hate her. She never poses for pictures. She acts like a real snot nose for the most part.
Sean Penn is someone who does not take anything lightly whatsoever. He just looks like a tormented, tortured person.
Well, Sean Penn's one of the biggest jerks in the business. He was at one of his film premieres. I think it was War No Angels or something like that. And has also got another big jerk, Robert De Niro.
I remember when he came to New York for the opening of his movie State of Grace.
You know, Sean comes in with Robin Wright, which was his new. I'm not sure if it was his wife yet, but she was having his baby, and it was a very, very big picture to get.
He doesn't like publicity at all, yet because he wanted to promote the film, he posed for pictures outside of the theater here on 17th Street. Didn't smile, but he posed.
And we literally could not get a shot of Sean Penn at his own film premiere, which to me is just, a little bit crazy that, these publicists, they get you on the phone, they call you, say, come and shoot Sean Penn, shoot our premiere, and we're trying to give them a publicity.
They had a party afterwards at the coffee shop, a restaurant here.
Later, they tried to sneak him out the back of the theater to go to the party, which is being held at the coffee shop here in Manhattan. Very trendy watering hole.
Again, he posed, didn't smile, but for the paparazzi photographers that follow him around, that was more pictures of him, I think, than they've gotten in years.
Anyway, we couldn't get a shot of him there, so we figured, okay, he's inside this building, we know the exits, there's no way he's going to get out unless we can get a shot of him. What they did was they took Sean's limo and they literally backed it into a garage that was connected to the coffee shop, and they closed the door of the garage, so they were just going to sneak Sean right into the limousine.
Yet they still weren't satisfied, and something that I was appalled at, after he went into the party, they found out that his car was parked in a garage nearby. They went to the garage, they piled up garbage cans, garbage from the street, a whole bunch of litter, so that when he came out in his car, the car would be blocked and he would be frozen there, and they could get more pictures of him.
And what happened when the door of the garage came open, the limo driver knew that we were all standing there waiting to get the shot, but he didn't know the bags were there, and he kind of floored it, and he went right into the bags of stuff, and the stuff went spraying all over the place, and we were cracking up, and Sean's driver had to stop because he didn't know what he hit. And when he stopped, we went right up to the window. Another guy had gotten a dozen eggs.
Well, I was horrified by what went on. They jumped on top of the car. They started hurling garbage at him. They called him every name under the sun.
And we took eggs and we started pelting the limo. And we went right up to the glass of the door, and we were spitting on the car and everything. It was kind of a funny story. So basically, if you treat us like a human being, we'll treat you like a human being. But if you're not going to give us a photo at your own film premiere, this is the way we're going to treat you.
They actually got on his car, jumped on his car?
They were jumping on the roof of the car. They were yelling at him. They were throwing garbage that they had picked up from the garbage cans at the car and treating him like an animal, I thought. And I now fully understand why he doesn't smile.
Walt, what do you think you've given up for your pursuit of fame?
A lot of people have said to me, if I had stayed at education, where I was for a long time, I would still have all the tenure that I've abandoned. I would have all my sick days, and I'd be earning maybe $50,000, $60,000, what with the master's and the doctoral equivalency that I have. But I wouldn't have been happy, though, because I realized then that 9 to 5 is fine, and working to a class of 30 students 5 times a day, the same subjects year after year, was not for me. I have more fun now, though we starve a little bit, but being able to have the freedom to go and come as I choose and to enjoy myself and act silly if I want, that's what feels good. And you only pass this way once. I'd rather do this and suffer and starve and just live day to day, knowing that the right thing will happen and make me feel very good. I don't go to a job every day, but in my heart, I know it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it.
Why do you have Fred Javelin's obituary in your office?
Fred Javelin's obituary reminds me constantly of the fact that I used to bring $230 every couple of weeks down to the Star-Ledger to put my display ad in the paper. And this fella here would take checks from me, working at the Star-Ledger, reading the New York Times when I came down there, because he had the foresight to marry into money. This Fred Javelin's married the daughter of the Morehouse family, and he didn't have to do a damn thing except stand there working for the Ledger, taking money from me and reading the New York Times. And as rich as he is, he's dead. D-E-A-D, dead. We're all going to be dead. Doesn't matter how rich you are, who you marry, who you don't marry, we're all going to be dead, but not me. I've already spoken with the Irvington Health Department. I have permission to be stuffed. I'm going to be standing outside the office right over there with my microphone in my hand, this hand here for choreography, and I'm going to be out there, and all the pigeons can come and make duty on me. I'm not going to be forgotten. I'm going to be out there stuffed.
One afternoon, while in the middle of a day of researching, Mark walked into an antique shop and walked out with a magazine ad featuring Gary Cooper endorsing cigarettes. This sparked our interest, and we began gathering advertisements featuring celebrities endorsing products. Our collection ended up in the hundreds, and we narrowed down our favorites to 2. One, on a matchbook cover, featured baseball great Yogi Berra in his Me for Yoo-Hoo soft drink campaign. You could even send $2.50 and the matchbook in and receive the book entitled The Story of Yogi Berra. The other advertisement featured football star turned movie star Rosie Greer in his Enjoy a Cool Blue campaign for PBR, Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer.
Advertisers use a number of pseudo-Gemeinschaft techniques to sell products. What pseudo-Gemeinschaft means is to create a false sense of intimacy, to create a sense of face-to-face relationships with people you otherwise do not know. One technique it's used is to have a celebrity in a very informal fashion endorse a product, and in this congenial manner convey the sense that the celebrity, in fact, is a friend of the consumer, even though the consumer doesn't know the person in question selling the product. Another example of this sales technique, of a pseudo-Gemeinschaft sales technique, is when a performer with specialized qualities these specialized qualities become transformed into general attributes. Let's take, for example, the home run hitter who excels in slugging home runs. These become transformed into general virtues when you see this individual endorsing a muffler or some other product. And so the message is that the home run hitter is not only good at hitting home runs, but also knows a lot about automobiles.
Our search for ads brought us into another area of marketing, that of celebrity-related products, where once you could only collect baseballs autographed by stars like Hank Aaron, Johnny Bench, and Roger Clemens, you could now get baseballs autographed by basketball players, or basketballs autographed by movie stars, or baseballs autographed by presidents, or boxers, or famous political figures, or rock and roll stars, or dozens of other music and movie stars, or tennis stars, or golf balls autographed by TV stars, or used golf shoes worn by a basketball star, or a baseball cap worn by a football player, or other memorabilia like canceled personal checks from baseball players. Not only could you now own Joe DiMaggio's game-worn jersey or a pair of his cleats, but you could also own an autographed full-front panel of a Mr. Coffee box. And if you wanted more than just Mickey Mantle on a baseball card, there were now special series available, like baseball stars posing with their dogs. And trading cards themselves had grown to include hundreds of subjects, ranging from the Andy Griffith Show to the Royal Family set to the JFK Assassination Trading Card Series. And if you yourself aren't on a trading card, you now have the chance with a new series, Real People Trading Cards, featuring real people just like you and me.
When a celebrity becomes a corporation, this is essentially a two-stage process. In the first stage, there are celebrities who sell products, and if they become successful, they go on to the second stage where, in fact, they become the product. In essence, what happens is, after a while, celebrities gain enough popular recognition that they are no longer regular performers, but in effect, they have become an industry in their own right.
Hey, Mark. Check this out.
Fueled by the talking toothbrush, Mark and Eugene spent the next few weeks scouring flea markets and toy shops, collecting celebrity-related items, including the following examples: the Gomer Pyle board game, the Richard Nixon diamond-studded presidential medallion, Sonny and Cher dolls, the Elizabeth Taylor matinee idol ring circa 1952, the Clint Eastwood commemorative plate, Michael Jordan fruit snacks made with real fruit, the Bob Hope radio-controlled golfer, Sex Maniac trading cards featuring Mike Tyson, Cleopatra, basketball legend Wilt Chamberlain, porno king John Holmes, Milwaukee madman Jeffrey Dahmer, and psychologist Sigmund Freud, Willie Mays caramel corn and Willie Mays roasted chicken cap, Rocky Balboa Bubble Fun featuring bubble-blowing boxing gloves, Phyllis Diller's Philly Dilly Chicken Chili with chunks of real chicken, the Dukes of Hazzard board game and the Waltons board game featuring John Boy, watches featuring Michael Jackson, Pee Wee Herman, Marilyn Monroe, Spiro Agnew, and Arthur Fiedler of Boston Pops fame, Bloody Vision serial killer trading cards featuring accountant run-amok John List, convicted postal killer Joe Harris, making his second appearance Jeffrey Dahmer, and the infamous Bonnie and Clyde. Monkey's talking hand puppet featuring Mickey Dolenz, Davy Jones, Mike Nesmith, and Peter Tork. For good, clean, political paddleball fun, it's the George Bush Bushwhacker paddleball game. Beetle sneakers, the Clint Eastwood Pebble Beach Tennis Tournament whiskey decanter, the John Lennon whiskey decanter with musical bass that plays I Want to Hold Your Hand and removable head cork. Archie Bunker's grandson, Joey Stivic Elvis playing cards, trading cards, matchbooks, air freshener, watch, and Elvis bust lamp. The W.C. Fields battery tester with light-up red nose indicator. Reggie Jackson car wax. Michael Dukakis Campaign 88 cigarettes. Famous dope fiend trading cards featuring literary giant Edgar Allan Poe, comedian Lenny Bruce, rocker David Crosby, and making his second appearance, Sigmund Freud. The Pope light switch cover complete with biblical quote, "Let there be light." The Joey Buttafuoco comic book, and the Albert Einstein refrigerator magnet.
Corporations often seek to sensationalize and exploit the fame of celebrities to enhance their own commercial interests. There's another reason. There's a desire to destroy the very heroes they created, pandering to a need in audiences to believe that heroes do fall from grace, that they have problems, that they experience tragedies. This makes people who lead otherwise quiet lives of desperation feel that they have some bond with the celebrity. In other words, the famous bring a lot of comfort to the unfamous.
Delving into an area that some would consider exploitive marketing and others would consider smart business, we discovered a large amount of information. The most interesting item we found concerned George Holliday, the man who videotaped the Rodney King beating. It seemed that just weeks after the beating, he was approached by a movie company to make the George Holliday life story, a toy company for the George Holliday Crime Buster action figure, and a production company to make the George Holliday TV show. All of these fell through. He was, however, able to put out the shoot news and make money with your camcorder videotape. And as the research group continued in this area, we came across a local entrepreneur of our own.
Can you tell us your John List story?
Sure. John List story, for those of you who don't know who he is, this guy back in 1971 snapped and wiped out his whole family, hopped on a plane to Bumblefuck USA, and no one ever saw him again. That was 20 years ago. 20 years later, he is caught on the show America's Most Wanted, and he's brought to trial for his murders.
And what did you have to do with John List?
Well, to celebrate this momentous occasion that this guy was finally caught after such a long time, that I came up with these T-shirt ideas. I made 3 T-shirt designs. One says Father of the Year. One maps out John List's journey over the 20 years he was running from the law, and the third one is John List's alter ego, Bob.
What does Bob have to do with it?
Well, when they caught him, he refused to admit he was John List, and he was calling himself Bob Clark. So, the shirt says, "Hi, my name is Bob."
So where did you sell the T-shirts?
I sold them in front of the courthouse in Elizabeth where they sentenced the guy. It was a big mob scene. This thing was nationwide news. And there was TV cameras there and newspaper reporters, and I was interviewed. I was on Channel 4 News, and sold about a little over 200 shirts.
Oh, so they did pretty well.
Oh, yeah, they did great. They did fantastic.
And what are some of the problems that a celebrity like Stallone encounters?
Well, most celebrities encounter the same problems. People trying to take advantage of their fame and a lot of lack of privacy.
Can you give us an example of that?
Well, people try and sell objects like through a celebrity. Like somebody sent this lighter one time with Sylvester Stallone's picture on it. Thought that it was going to be a great marketing idea, but it kind of ended up in a drawer with all the other things that come in the mail.
So Stallone didn't really pay much attention to it?
No, not too much attention at all.
So are you working on anything right now?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, based on the public's reaction to the infamous Elvis stamp, I thought it might be a neat idea if I approached the U.S. Department of Treasury with a different idea for the characters on money, like on $1 and $5 bills, taking the presidents off and putting the famous person in there. People would be, really into something like that.
So what famous people are on your cash?
Well, on the $1 bill, I got Arnold Schwarzenegger. And on the $10 bill, I've got Jack Nicholson.
How do you think they'll be received if it does go through?
Money well spent.
Well, can you tell us where you think you'll be in 5 years?
If you had asked me 5 years ago where I was going to be today, I wouldn't know. You just keep doing the things that you do, and you hope and pray that you believe in the right situation, but it's not up to the talent. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows what the future holds. I've got a sheet here of activities I'm working on right now. If these work out, fine, then ask me where I am in 5 years. But you don't know. You never know. You never know. You do what you think you have to do. You get up in the morning and you believe that you have talent. You think you're as good as the next person out there. But it's up to the gods. It's up to luck. There's so many factors involved. You don't know. You just keep doing it and just keep praying, and it might just happen, but you don't know. You don't know.
We received some responses from the last group of letters. Wayne Newton's people took time out to answer us, but unfortunately, the Vegas crooner's schedule wouldn't allow time for an interview. Donald Trump's assistant thanked us for writing, said Mr. Trump was flattered, but his hectic schedule would make an interview impossible. Jim Neighbors, of Gomer Pyle fame, wrote an insightful response, saying he wouldn't feel comfortable talking about fame and himself, that he never thought of himself as being famous, nor did he ever seek fame. He just worked hard, got lucky, and is most appreciative. Then he thanked us for considering him. Political figure Alexander Haig referred us to his agent. And then, finally, after 311 letters, we received one lone answer, one lone man, one lone celebrity who agreed to an interview. This man was none other than game show legend Monty Hall, best known for hosting the popular 1970s game show Let's Make a Deal. Although he couldn't meet with us, he did agree to an interview through the mail. When asked about the positive and negative aspects of fame, Monty replied, "The positive aspects of fame are that it provides one with the opportunity to do good things for family, friends, and for the community. High visibility allows you to perform for charitable causes and help raise funds. Negative aspects include demands on your time, the invasion of privacy, and being a visible target for newspaper critics." When questioned about the stereotypical problems of Let's Make a Deal, Monty replied, "Yes, I was stereotyped because of Let's Make a Deal. It worked against my ability to do other things, such as talk shows, dramatic shows, etc. I was dubbed the King of Game Shows, and that label is one that you cannot shed when you seek to enter other arenas of entertainment. Even when I did perform in Las Vegas or in musical comedy or in musical specials on television, the advanced billing was Game Show King to do nightclub career, etc." And when asked about Madonna, this is what Monty Hall had to say. "Madonna is probably the best packaged and marketed commodity we have had in a long time. I will reserve my own thoughts about her talent." We'd like to thank Monty Hall for answering us. We came across many stories of people who met celebrities under accidental circumstances. One man was hitchhiking and was picked up by actor Clark Gable. A woman met author Kurt Vonnegut while riding the subway. And a man was on a camping trip when he was 10 years old and ran into Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio. These three people, for various reasons, were unable to be interviewed. But there were others.
Okay, can you tell us about your run-in with a famous person?
Yes, my instance of running into a famous person was literally almost running into him. The fact of the matter was we were on a Jersey Turnpike and a green Cadillac was in front of me, and he kind of changed lanes kind of fast, almost cut me off. I don't think he saw me and realized I was there. He was trying to go over to the cars only lane. With this, so he left the truck lane and almost ran me off the center of the road. By the time he had cut me off, I pulled up next to him, to glare over at him in the car as if to say, you know where you're going, buddy, or you know how to drive that car or what? And I looked over at him with a bit of a glare after what had occurred, and I realized when I looked behind the wheel, the guy driving looked over at me, and the guy I was going to give a little bit of jazz to happened to be Muhammad Ali. He was driving the car. I looked and did a double take and looked again to see if it really was who I thought it was, and it was. And he looked over and he gave me one of these and winked and, kind of like, how you doing over there? And with this, I realized he had a CB antenna on the car, so I began to speak to him, began to talk to him. I just picked up the CB, and I went, is that you, champ? He picked up the CB in his car. He says, yeah, you got the champ here. With this, he started a conversation, talked with me. We spoke about sports and fighting and everything else from about Newark Airport all the way down to about Linden, Carteret area. With this, he says to me, where do you live? I said, I live down in Edison. He says, you got any kids down here? I said, yeah, I got a 13-year-old boy at home who would love to meet you, champ. I said, you got time to stop and have a couple of pops before you head on to the airport with your buddies? And he says, let me see if we got the time. He checked with them and he didn't. He says, gee, I'm sorry I can't. He says, maybe I'll catch you next time. I says, all right, I'll catch you another time. With this, meantime, as I'm talking to him on the CB, I'm hearing truckers come over Channel 19 saying, some jerk thinks he's talking to the champ. And another trucker saying, you mean Muhammad? He said, yeah, some jerk thinks he's talking to him. And I'm hearing another trucker say, if it isn't him, the guy sure does a great impersonation of the champ. With this, we drive a little bit further, and all of a sudden on my CB, back comes the champ, and he says, hey, where's my buddy from Edison? I said, right here, champ, what's up? He says, hey, I see a signed service area. He says, pull in there. He says, I got something for your boy. With this, we pull in the service area. He pulls up the gas pump, invites me over to his car, sits me down in the front seat. One of his buddies gets out, goes in the trunk, and he pulls out a nice big 8x10 glossy picture of himself and autographs and puts on it to my son, Bobby Kelly from the champ, signs it. In my book, I know they call him the greatest. He says he was the greatest. In my book, in my estimation, he is the greatest.
And what's your story about meeting a famous person?
Well, actually, I meet famous people all the time because I've worked in New York nightclubs for the past 5 or 6 years, and right now I'm working at the Rainbow Room, and I even work on Saturday Night Live sometimes, but it's never appropriate for me to get an autograph. So there's only one time I ever got anybody's autograph. We were on strike at the Rainbow Room this summer, and I was on the picket line one night, and this limo pulls up, and this man gets out. Now, I'm way at the back of the picket line, and I'm not really paying attention. And I look up, and it looks like Johnny Carson to me, and everybody's talking to him, and they convince him that he's got to go up and cancel his reservation and, honor our strike. So I figure, oh, what the hell? Johnny Carson, he just retired. My grandparents would die for his autograph. So I run in the building after him with my pen and my paper, and I said, can I please have your autograph? So he said, sure, and he's giving me his autograph. The man with him says, you're a big fan? I said, oh, isn't everybody? And he gives me the autograph, and I said, thank you, and I came back out, and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, even in scribble, this does not look like Johnny Carson. So I asked somebody else on the picket line, I said, does that look like that could any way be Johnny Carson's signature to you? They said, well, that wasn't Johnny Carson, that was Tommy Smothers. So the only time in my life I ever demeaned myself to get somebody's autograph, it was Tommy Smothers, so I gave it away the next day.
Who was the celebrity that you met, and how did it happen?
I met Roberto Duran down in the 5th Street Gym in '82.
What happened when you met him?
Well, we were all excited. I was a kid. I was about 20 years old. And, he comes in, and there wasn't a lot of people there. So he comes in, and he shook my hand, and he went like, ooh, ooh, like I was squeezing his hand, like Fred Mertz did to John Wayne in that All Lucy episode. So, I was all happy. I was ready to take a picture with him. And this guy comes in, like a yuppie guy, real pasty skin, mozzarella skin. And he comes in, he cuts right in front of me. And he goes, and he takes a picture, his girl takes a picture of him with Roberto. And then they switch. And all of a sudden, it's like they're taking pictures, and then like Roberto's groping her. He's like on her. He's got his hand up her coochie, and he's got his tongue down her throat. And I look over at my partner. I'm like, am I retarded? Is this normal? It was just a weird fucking experience.
Can you tell us about your meeting with Lou Gehrig?
Yeah, this happened when I was about 10 years old, which would make it about 1935. My dad was a doctor, and I had developed a little cyst on the instep of my foot, and he took me down to New Rochelle Hospital to the emergency room just to have it lanced. He was going to give me a little anesthetic and have it lanced. And as we were walking in, Lou Gehrig came out, and my dad was Lou Gehrig's doctor, and they stopped to talk about some tests that Lou had just made. And when they finished, Lou said, who's this? And Dad said, that's my boy Bob. And Lou asked why I was there, and Dad told him about the operation. And Lou was supposed to be at the Yankee Stadium. He had a game that afternoon, but he figured out 10-year-old kid would probably be scared to death, so he came back into the operating room, sat with me the entire time the procedure was going on, telling me stories about Babe Ruth and baseball games and all of the other baseball players and so on.
Do you remember any of the stories?
Well, to tell you the truth, I had absolutely no interest in baseball whatsoever. I thought it was darn sweet of him to take the time, but frankly, I couldn't have cared less what he was talking about.
So, Hank, can you tell us about your meeting with the Shah of Iran?
Jim, I'll never forget it as long as I live. We're in a convoy of Marines on the way over to Okinawa in June of 1958, and we stopped over in Hawaii for a day. And we're sitting at the bar, about 15 or 20 of us in the Royal Hawaiian Hotel, fooling around, having a good time. The Sergeant Major was making out that he was the colonel and just fooling around young guys. And suddenly in the back of the nightclub, we heard a commotion. We turn around, and this party walks in, and we discover it's the Shah of Iran. And a few seconds later, Bob Swift, one of our guys, little brash fellow, turned around and yelled over, "Hey, Shah!" And, what's going on? And a few seconds later, they're having like a meeting, and you hear a voice says, "Yes?" He says, "How about buying the U.S. Marines a drink?" They have another meeting. And a few seconds later, you hear a voice says, "The Shah declines." So Bob turns around and says, "Hey, Shah, fuck you." I want to tell you, I was out the front door. We didn't see the rest of those guys until we got to Okinawa. They locked them up.
Yes, a few years ago, New York City at a bar. I was having a few drinks. It's about midnight. Look up at the bar. It's Robert De Niro sitting there by himself. So I go up to him. I say, "Hey, Mr. De Niro, I think you're one of the greatest actors of all time. Just wanted to tell you that." He kind of laughs. He looks at me. He says, "Hey, I'm not Robert De Niro." I said, "Hey, I know you like your privacy and everything. I just wanted to tell you I really respect your work. That's all." Looks a little more pissed off this time. He says, "Hey, I'm not Robert De Niro." I says, "Fine." I go back to the table. About a half an hour later, a couple people point up there and say, "Hey, isn't that Robert De Niro?" So I had a few more beers in me. I said, "I'm going to go talk to him." So I went up to him. I said, "Mr. De Niro, look, I don't want to bug you, but, the work you did on Raging Bull, gaining 60 pounds for that part, I think it's incredible. I think you're amazing." The guy turns to me and says, "What the hell is your problem? I told you I'm not Robert De Niro." I says, "Hey, man, I don't want to bug you or nothing. I just think you're the greatest actor who ever lived." As I was saying this, I kind of swayed into him. The guy pushes me back. I said, "I don't care who you are, and I shoved him back. Next thing you know, we're on the ground rolling around. Somewhere in there, he got a shot at me, gave me a black eye, which I thought was cool, I got a black eye from Robert De Niro. Figure that's a keeper, right? So we both get kicked out of the bar. Next morning, I'm reading in the paper that De Niro's filming Midnight Run in New Zealand or someplace. There it is. What are you gonna do?
Some celebrities need the media to sustain their fame. Others have performed deeds of such extraordinary magnitude that they no longer need the media. Their name is inextricably linked with the event or the deed.
Einstein has become so famous, he's reached far beyond the realm of science into a pop icon with his pictures on T-shirts and posters. Do you think he'd approve of this?
Well, Einstein never took such matters very seriously. He would smile. He did not like authority. He did not like worldly fame. He did not care much for worldly fame. He knew, of course, that he was a mythical figure. He knew it. But he did not promote that, and it was not in his own style to take it very seriously.
How did Pablo Picasso feel about his fame?
He liked it, and he did everything he could to augment it. And from the very beginning, he tried to develop his personality as a mythological, famous, extraordinary character.
How do you think he would feel about now having his image on objects like T-shirts, coffee mugs, and posters?
I think he'd approve of it 100%, because everything that increased his fame, that made him more world renowned, he liked.
He said to me once, after I die, when I die, I want to be cremated, because otherwise people will come and worship my bones. He just did not want to have any of that sort of worship after death and so on and so on. He did not want his house to become a museum where he lived. And he did not want a plaque on the door of the office he used at the Institute in Princeton, where I knew him. Finish is finished. That was his a Jewish attitude toward life, you might say.
What did Picasso think of his admirers?
I think he liked them. He liked to be admired. He, as I said a little while ago, he was very interested in being famous. He was a person who created a legend around himself. And a great deal of his art has a somewhat mythological background to it. And I think he conceived of himself as a somewhat mythological, legendary figure.
As a fellow scientist, why do you think Albert Einstein became so famous while other scientists haven't?
Now, I think you mean, if I understand your question, why did he become so famous in the public eye, in the general public eye?
Yes.
Well, it has something. First of all, some people say it was because he was so photogenic. That, I think, has nothing to do with it, because at the time that his great fame began, which was around 1920, he was not a very particularly good-looking man. He looked like a good citizen with a little belly and all that kind of thing. I think it has to do with language. What do I mean by that? I mean by that the following. Einstein's great discoveries could be summarized in very simple sentences. Light is bent. Very simple words, right? Space is warped. All very, every word in the sentence. You may not know precisely what it means scientifically, but it is a kind of expression that speaks to the imagination, because there is a headline in the New York Times of 1919. Stars are not where they are supposed to be, but nobody need worry. Those kind of things, stars and light, there are things that are in everybody's dreams and primal images. And those things are very associated from the beginning with Einstein. By whom? By the press. Because Einstein, as a world popular figure, is a production of the media. You made him. The New York Times made him. The London Times made him. That's how it began.
Walt, are you promoting any talent at the present time?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm working with a lot of groups, males, females, rhythm and blues, rock and roll songwriters, but there's one person in particular I'm really excited about. This young lady, her name is Betty Ann. She's the best I have right now. We're going to hear her sing a little bit. I'm only going to tell you that it's Betty Ann. I'm not going to let you know her last name, because some evil viper out there is going to steal her away from me. And that's been the story of my life for 30 years. I'm not letting this one get away. Ugh, not this one.
Can we hear her sing now?
I hope so. I hope so. If the price is right. Here's Betty Ann doing a little bit of Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
That's my Betty Ann. We're going to make it, Betty Ann. That's my meal ticket. Betty Ann, no second name. Betty Ann, we're going to go places. Oh, love it to death. You've got what it takes, Betty Ann. You've got what it takes. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Whew.
Joe, he had a vicious grudge against a greasy lawyer and a crooked judge. I said, forget it, Joe, you gotta let it be. Just like that rock and roll song from 1970. But he shot them both down at the county fair, and now he's waiting to die in the electric chair.
Has anyone famous ever pulled into this gas station?
No, famous?
No, anyone famous?
Regular premium?
Well, I saw Beth at a bar. She was drinking some beer. She hasn't talked to her sister now in over 8 years. I said, forget it, Beth, you gotta let it be. Just like that rock and roll song 1970. Well, she won't give in, she'd rather just waste away. Yeah, she drinks every night and she's sleeping all day. Bosco was screaming down at Jake's garage about two brothers who ripped him off a real raw job. I said, forget it, boss, you gotta let it be. Just like that rock and roll song from 1970. Well, I don't take crap, he said, I'll make them boys pay. And now there's 3 less people on the planet today. Four long-haired boys wrote down their philosophy in a rock and roll song from 1970. Words of wisdom sort of fell from the sky, but somehow we missed them, let them pass us right by. We're on the road of life, it's just another wrong turn. Now you can hear something clear and still never